The sky above Palm Beach was melting into hues of orange and rose, the kind of sunset that made silence feel like prayer. Barron Trump walked alone, hands tucked in the pockets of his dark coat, his footsteps echoing faintly on the brick path, winding between hedges and whitewashed walls. He hadn't planned this walk. He had simply needed air, space, a moment without cameras or whispers. The streets were quiet, as if the whole world was holding its breath. As he passed the small stone church at the corner of Worth Avenue, something in him, something beyond thought, made him stop. The stained glass window above the arched door caught the final rays of sunlight, casting shimmering colors across the facade. Barron stood still for a long moment, then slowly stepped inside. The cool air of the church wrapped around him. The scent of old wood, candle wax, in quiet reverence was familiar and comforting. Only a few candles flickered near the altar. No one else was there. He walked toward the front pew and sat down. His posture collapsed slightly under a weight he hadn't realized he was carrying. He closed his eyes. "God," he whispered, not loudly, but with a voice heavy with honesty. "I don't know what to say to you, but I think you already know what's in my heart." He paused, listening not for a sound, but for a silence that would hold him. "This fight between my father and Elon Musk, it's becoming something more than just disagreement. It's public, it's cruel, it's consuming everything. The headlines, the people's minds, even me." He leaned forward, elbows on his knees, hands clasped tightly. "Please, Lord, give my father clarity. Give him wisdom, not for his sake, but for this country, and for those of us who still believe in something greater than ego." He prayed. There was a long silence. Then a voice broke it gently. "That's a heavy burden for someone so young to carry," said a calm voice from behind. Barron turned. Standing quietly in the aisle was an older man in priest's robes, gentle eyes, soft hands, and a voice like velvet over stone. "I didn't mean to intrude," Barron said, straightening up slightly. "You're not intruding," the man replied with a kind smile. "I'm Father Philip. I saw you come in. Something in your face told me you weren't here just to admire the stained glass." Barron looked down at his hands and exhaled slowly. "I came here because I didn't know where else to go," he admitted. "I needed to speak to someone, or maybe just sit in the silence and hope God would hear me anyway." "And did you feel heard?" Father Philip asked as he walked slowly toward the front and sat beside him. "I'm not sure," Barron replied, glancing toward the cross above the altar. "But I needed to try. My father, he's always been a strong man, but lately I worry that his strength is turning into stubbornness. And it's not just a personal matter anymore. The media won't let it go. Musk fires back with his tweets. My dad escalates, and the world watches, laughing or crying or both." Father Philip nodded slowly, his eyes thoughtful. "You speak like someone twice your age," he said gently. "I don't feel young most days," Barron replied, his voice low. "I see too much. I think too much. And I feel like no one really wants to hear any of it because I'm just his son." Father Philip rested a hand on the back of the pew, his gaze still forward. "Sometimes the greatest truths come not from those who speak loudest, but from those who carry their questions into the silence," he said. Barron turned to look at him, the light from the candles flickering across his face. "Then I hope I'm not wasting my questions," Barron said quietly. For a moment, the church was silent again. The only sounds were the distant hum of passing traffic and the soft flicker of candle flames dancing against the cold stone walls. Father Philip sat still beside Barron, allowing the silence to breathe. "You know," Barron said after a long pause, "I used to think that my last name was my strength, that it would protect me, open doors, keep me safe. But lately it feels like it's something I have to carry, not just wear." He looked down, his fingers tightening around each other. "Every word my father says, every tweet, every public comment, it echoes through me, even when I stay silent. People expect me to agree, or to defend him, or to become like him. But I'm not sure I want to," he confessed. Father Philip listened with the kind of attention that didn't rush or interrupt. His voice was calm when he finally responded. "Names carry stories, Barron. Some of those stories we inherit, others we must choose to write ourselves," he said gently. Barron's eyes lifted toward the altar again, as if looking for a shape in the shadows. "But how do you write your own story?" he asked, "when the world insists on writing it for you every day? When your face is on news articles you didn't ask to be in? When your silence is taken as a stance and your presence as a symbol?" "You begin," Father Philip replied softly, "by deciding what matters most to you, and by not letting the noise outside drown out the whisper inside." Barron leaned back in the pew, taking in the stillness around him. His voice was lower now, almost tired. "My father's war with Elon Musk, it's not just about policy or ego anymore. It's become spectacle. They mock each other on live television, online, in front of millions. And every time they do, I see something in my mother's face. Something sad. Something weary." He paused, swallowing the lump forming in his throat. "I don't think he realizes how much harm he's causing. Not just to his own legacy, but to his family, and even the people who still believe in him." Father Philip's expression softened further, as if he had been waiting for this moment, not the words, but the heart behind them. "And what do you believe, Barron?" he asked gently. Barron hesitated. Then in a voice that cracked only slightly, he answered, "I believe power means nothing without grace. And I believe if we don't know when to stop fighting, we eventually start fighting the wrong things, including ourselves." Father Philip gave a slow, solemn nod. "That's a hard truth to accept, but a necessary one," he said quietly. "Sometimes the people we love are too lost in their own storms to hear our voice. But that doesn't mean we stop speaking or praying." "That's why I came," Barron said, his voice steadier now. "Not just to pray for my father, but to ask God to give me the strength to speak to him, to try, even if he won't listen right away." Father Philip placed a firm but warm hand on his shoulder. "Then maybe God brought you here tonight not to find answers, but to find courage," and he said. Barron didn't answer right away, but for the first time that evening, something shifted behind his eyes. A quiet resolve, not certainty, but a beginning. Barron remained seated for a long while after Father Philip's words. The candles at the front of the sanctuary flickered gently, casting slow-moving shadows against the marble crucifix. Outside, the last colors of the sunset faded into a deep navy blue. Finally, he stood and walked toward the altar, each step slow, deliberate. He knelt before it alone this time and clasped his hands together. "God," he whispered, "I don't want to lead a nation. I don't want attention. I just want to help the people I love find peace again, so especially my father. Please, give him clarity. Remind him who he used to be before the crowds, before the cameras, before the fights, and give me the strength to be the son he needs, not just the son he expects." His voice broke slightly on the last words, but he didn't wipe away the tear that slipped down his cheek. He let it fall. Behind him, Father Philip stood quietly watching. "That was not a small prayer, Barron," he said, walking forward. "It was the kind of prayer that echoes longer than any speech." Barron rose slowly to his feet and turned to face the priest. "I don't know if he'll listen," Barron said, "but I can't stay silent anymore. I'll speak not for politics, not for pride, but because someone has to draw the line. And maybe, just maybe, he'll remember how to cross back over it." Father Philip smiled, a subtle, knowing kind of smile. The kind a man gives when he sees a boy grow into something more. "Sometimes," he said, "what a father needs most isn't obedience, it's honesty, spoken with love. You might be surprised how deeply a quiet truth can pierce through all the noise." Barron nodded, the weight on his shoulders no lighter but somehow easier to bear. "Thank you," he said quietly, "for listening, for letting me say it out loud." "Come back any time," Father Philip replied. "This sanctuary is not just for the broken, it's for the brave too." Barron gave him a small but sincere smile, then turned and walked slowly toward the exit of the church. The heavy wooden doors creaked open, letting in the cool air of evening. Outside, the city was still humming, still spinning its endless web of headlines and division. But for now, Barron stepped into it differently, not as a passive heir to a legacy, but as someone ready to shape his own place within it. That night, as the city lights blinked like distant stars and the world outside buzzed with the static of conflict, something invisible yet powerful had shifted within the old stone walls of the church. A young man had entered, burdened by his father's name, and walked out carrying something far greater, his own voice. He had not asked for revenge, nor victory, nor for his father's enemies to fall. He had asked instead for understanding, for wisdom, for the quiet courage to speak truth with grace. And in doing so, Barron Trump revealed a different kind of strength, one not measured by how loudly one commands attention, but by how deeply one listens before speaking. His prayer was not shouted, it was whispered. But some whispers, when said in earnest, carry louder than war cries and last longer than legacies. Barron Trump's private prayer. After Elon Musk fight, what he told the priest reveals everything. Barron Trump breaks silence after his dad's fight with Elon Musk. What he says will shock you. What does a son pray for when the entire nation is watching his father fight a billionaire? Barron Trump walked into a church at sunset, silent, but not lost. He didn't come to take sides. He came to speak to something higher, to speak the truth his family couldn't say aloud. In a world torn between pride and power, Barron whispered a prayer that could change the course of a legacy. And what happened next? No one saw coming. What would you pray for if your father was fighting the most powerful man in tech? Let's keep the conversation going. Subscribe, share, and drop your thoughts below. Your perspective is valuable and might inspire others.